Hey everyone, you are watching the next episode of Everything I Like Gets Canceled, the show where I talk about things from my childhood or not so distant past that have been canceled, closed down, discontinued, or are just otherwise very difficult to get to. In this episode, I am talking about another show. This show is something that, as soon as I started thinking about it, brought back so much nostalgia for me, and I'm really excited to talk about it today. And that show is Beetleborgs. Beetleborgs, also Big Bad Beetleborgs, is a show that a lot of people compared to Power Rangers, but I remember always liking Beetleborgs more than Power Rangers. Basically, Beetleborgs is about a group of three kids that get special powers and they're able to fight villains. You can do research on Beetleborgs yourself, but I'm going to give a very brief overview about how this happens. From what I am remembering, the three main characters of the show, which are a brother, his younger sister, and his best friend, are kind of like comic book nerds, and they're dared one day into going into this supposed haunted house in their neighborhood, and they go into the haunted house out of this dare, and in the process of doing so, they kind of realize that there's actual ghosts and creepy things in the house, and in trying to escape, they bump into this organ, and in doing so, they release this ghost, and he gives them a wish because they freed him from this organ, and they wish to be their comic book heroes, the Beetleborgs. And their wish is granted, except what they don't realize is that in fulfilling this wish, not only are they the Beetleborgs, but they've unwittingly brought out the villains of the Beetleborgs in the comic book. These villains are the Magnivores, and they challenge the Beetleborgs in a series of different battles throughout the first season of the show. And that part is very much like Power Rangers in the sense of the Beetleborgs have these enemies, they need to fight them, and they do, and they oftentimes end victorious, or they find the strategy to be able to win all of their battles. Things change up in the second season, though. They're challenged to this battle with this other villain, the Beetleborgs are. And this villain defeats them. And they have to, and in the process of defeating them, all of their armor, their weapons, their vehicles, all of it gets destroyed. And they kind of have to rebuild themselves as this other form of Beetleborgs called Beetleborg Metallics. And all of their armor changes in that season. I loved Beetleborgs. I watched Beetleborgs regularly. I was a Beetleborg for Halloween. I had the Beetleborgs like action figures. I like them a lot, I think, because they were, I think if I'm, thinking back, I like them because the main characters were kind of nerdy. They weren't popular kids, they weren't strong, they weren't jocks, they didn't like sports, they were very into comic books. And one of them actually was into sports, the sister, if I'm remembering correctly, but all of them just were like comic book nerds, and they just got all these powers and tried to use them for good. And I remember thinking that that was very noble at the time. This show was on in the 90s, and I was in early elementary school when I was watching it. And here are several things that I remember about the Beetleborgs. One thing is that, unlike Power Rangers, Beetleborgs has not only their nemesis, the Magnivores, out to get them in each episode, there's also this like omnipresent threat in the show whenever they go into the haunted house to talk to their ghost friend. This haunted house, the best way to describe it is very much like if something from a Stephen King book, like if the house on Neibolt Street in It was put into a horror movie from the 1920s, like Frankenstein or Dracula, or like a very classic horror film. It's very much it just combines so many horror tropes into one place. I remember that the friendly ghost name was Flabber, which was interesting to me because that was right around the movie Flubber came out. And I remember being very confused about what the difference between Flabber and Flubber was. But Flabber was this blue ghost who was Elvis-ish, like he was trying to be Elvis. But Flabber was the only friendly ghost in this haunted house. I remember there was a vampire. His name was Count Fangula. He was my favorite. But all of the other ghosts, there was Count Fangula, there was a mummy, and there's a Frankenstein-like creature, and I think there was one or two more. But all of them hated the Beetleborgs in their human form. They hated them. And they would torment them, basically trying to run them out of the house, or if I'm remembering correctly, like eat them. Like I think they thought of them kind of as like just a nuisance. And Flabber was there oftentimes to protect them from the other ghosts. But sometimes Flabber wouldn't be there. And I remember one episode actually Flabber was caught somewhere or just not in the house. And a lot of the episode was kind of devolved into the Beetleborgs as humans, as they're in their teen form, getting chased around the mansion by all of the ghosts and the monsters that lived there. Another thing I remember about Beetleborgs is that in the second season, the actress who played the younger sister was replaced by another actress. And instead of changing the character or pretending that she was the same person, they did this whole elaborate storyline that Flabber cast like a spell or something on her to make her look different. And I remember just being very concerned about this. Like, I remember kind of freaking out. I was like, oh my God, like how can this person change, and does no one care? And I remember being very, very concerned, almost distraught over this change. And I mean, I don't think the quality of the character, diminished at all when a different actor subbed in, but it was something that really kind of like it freaked me out a little bit. Just and I was young. I guess I found it a little scary. Another thing I remember about Beetleborgs is the fact that I think the reason why I liked it kind of different than Power Rangers is the fact that there was kind of this weird sitcom-y nature to it. It wasn't all just about the battle. I feel like in Power Rangers, every episode is kind of, arching towards a very large battle that needs to take place, and then the battle occurs. There might be a problem or two that the Power Rangers need to fix, and then once that's fixed, the battle is won, or it continues into the next episode. With Beetleborgs, there was kind of this weird humor element to it where the teens would go into this haunted house and they would be chased around kind of for comedic effect. Or, I remember a running subplot was that the older brother had a crush on someone who worked in the comic book store. So there would be, issues or, personal life stuff also going on. That was a through line throughout each episode. So it wasn't just about the battles. If I'm remembering correctly, the battles were actually a very small part of each episode. And whenever a battle actually played a lot of significance, that's when it would carry on into like a multi-episode arc. Also, the costumes were really cool. I dressed up as a Beetleborg for Halloween one year in the mid-90s, and I just thought the costuming was so cool. Each of the costumes looked like Beatles, and I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I just love the name Beetleborg. It was just fun to say. Beetleborgs ran until the late 90s. I was around 5 or 6 when new episodes stopped being made. And then it progressively started to appear on TV less and less until they just didn't air it on TV anymore. One good thing, though, is that not all hope is lost. You can actually watch the Big Bad Beetleborgs on Netflix. And after making this video, I've decided that I am going to watch the whole show again. So I'm excited to watch it as an adult. I haven't seen it, I can't believe I'm saying this, I haven't seen it in 20 years. Or it's been almost 20 years because the last time I saw it, I was around 8 or 9. So I think it's going to be a huge nostalgic blast from the past. I don't know if I'm going to like it, but I am very eager to start watching it again. Did you like Beetleborgs as a kid? If you did, please comment below and let me know your thoughts. Big Bad Beetleborgs, or were you a Beetleborgs Metallics fan? And that's a wrap on the latest episode of Everything I Like Gets Canceled. If you like this show, or if you think you like other things I would talk about a lot of stuff like this, you can subscribe to my channel or just follow along for updates on all the videos that I am making. Thanks, and I will see you soon.